Okay, it's working. I'm not going to move anything.
Don't touch nothing.
Don't touch it.
Okay, just start talking.
Okay, so okay, let me pull up my questions.
I thought you said you were going to touch nothing.
I'm all over the place. I'm not going to touch anything on this end. Okay. So this video is going to look weird, but
whatever.
At least it's recording, and that's all that matters. Okay, so let's just jump in to this episode. Thank you for being here. Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Tina Arroyos, also known as Tina Latina. Hey. Artist, multimedia, whatever, media, whatever you want to call it. I'm not school trained. I'm a self-taught artist. So yeah, whatever.
Where are you from?
I was born in California, Southern California, Santana. I'm from Santana. So
when you say, do you ever say you're from the OC?
You get a different reaction. It depends on what crowd you're talking to when you say the OC, because it's like you get a side eye real quick.
Yeah, so you have to kind of just like jump in with, I'm from Santana.
Yeah, I'm from Santana. I grew up in the hood.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, people don't think that there's hoods in Santa Ana or Orange County. There is. There's hella hood. But I've lived all over Orange County. I'm from the hood to, I'm going to talk shit, but the white neighborhoods. But yeah.
Do you ever say or mistakenly say that you're from LA?
Well, I've lived most of my life in LA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because as soon as I turned 18 and knew that there was much more than the orange bubble, I got the fuck out.
Okay.
I left.
Yeah.
My family was garbage. My upbringing was garbage. So by the time I was 18, I had a year and a half kid. He was a year and a half old. And I just got all my shit and I left.
And you moved out of Orange County?
Moved out of Orange County. By that time, I had already been into the club scene, the gay club scene, because I had a fake ID when I was 17. Mm-hmm. So I started clubbing at 17, 18. And I had met a group of older lesbians who kind of took me in and, you know, like gave me a safe place and accepted me for me. Yeah. So I lived out in LA forever. Like I didn't move back to Orange County till I was in my late 40s. Cause I went through a moment, like I had told you, like I went through like 15 years of being like non-present.
Right.
And it was like depression and trying to find myself and anxiety and all that shit, trying to figure out who I was. Mm-hmm. And I moved to New Mexico for a couple of years. Just my wife and I, we took off and we lived out there for a couple of years. And it was kind of like we both realized that this is it. It's you and I, babe. We don't have anybody else, you know, to really, just the two of us.
And at the time you mentioned, like, you guys couldn't get married, right?
Oh, that was like in the early 2000s. In the early 2000s, gay couples weren't allowed to get married. Yeah. We were only allowed domestic partnership in the state of California. So the LA Lesbian and Gay Center had this huge event, and there was a line down the block of same-sex couples just standing in line just to file a piece of paper and pay $10. How fucked up is that?
Yeah.
It was pretty fucked up. But that was just to get her on my insurance, you know, and that way, you know.
Yeah.
That's the kind of bullshit that we had to go and do. And it was like, I would get pissed off because whenever I'd start a new job, I would be like, oh, domestic partner. And I'm like, well, you know, I would go to HR and be like, oh, this paper only says husband or wife. I go, where's your domestic partnership? So I would always question, you know, like, hey, what am I supposed to pick?
Yeah.
So they had to revise their documentation.
Yeah.
So I was like, ha.
It's kind of like the same thing, even like on the census where they had to revise like ethnicity and race and stuff. For like Latinos, it's really hard to do, you know?
Because Chicanos, we're Hispanic, but we're mixed race.
And we're not white.
Yeah. But my mom and dad's birth certificate says Caucasian.
Yeah. It's fucking weird. And annoying. And honestly, it's like obnoxious because like I have light skin, but I still don't get treated like in a room full of white people. I still don't get treated like I'm white.
Definitely.
You know? So
definitely not. And then to top it off, I don't speak Spanish.
Yeah.
I only know all the slang and the bad words.
Yeah.
And I have always worked in aerospace and manufacturing, so I'm working with a lot of factory workers, but I'm in the office. So when I would like cross paths with them in the bathroom, they would start talking to me and I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, I'm a no sabo kid,
Yeah.
Oh, pobrecita, and I'm just like, fuck you.
Or they talk shit too.
Yeah. And I'm like, bitch, I may not understand, but I understand what you said.
Yeah.
So check yourself.
Yeah.
And I've checked a lot of people.
I've struggled with that too. Because I also, I guess, I hate saying I'm a no sabo kid, but I am.
But you are.
I don't necessarily speak it as fluent as like I understand it. So that's where I struggle a lot. And then my accent just isn't there for me.
I'm telling you.
My R's aren't there.
Yeah.
But wait, so you guys moved to New Mexico and then you moved back. What was the reason?
So New Mexico is very segregated in the way it is. You're either okay or there's a lot of crime and drugs. And I was so fortunate to get this job for a jewelry manufacturer that sold on QVC. So I got to learn how to make jewelry, like mass production jewelry, which, like I told you, look at this. I'm wearing like a glass ring.
You have to show
it. I got to learn a lot of stuff from there. But then I decided to come back because the art scene wasn't for me. Because I had said, okay, well, let's go here. My family, my uncle actually had a property over there. And he's like, if you guys like it, I'll sign it over. You guys can take over payments.
Yeah.
But it was just too sketchy for me. I was just like, nah, I got out of LA. I don't want to come back to sketchiness,
Did you ever see Breaking Bad?
Yes. It was like.
Was it represented at all, like New Mexico?
Absolutely. You have all these like. You drive by the high school and you have all these kids wearing fedoras and shit. It was just like, really? Or eating that blue candy, it was like sugar candy on a stick. And I was just like, these fuckers. They took that shit serious.
Yeah. I went to visit New Mexico like twice. My brother went to the University of New Mexico.
UNM, yeah.
And like the thing, they're so proud of Breaking Bad. And the lady at the candy store, she like makes
the Old Town, right?
The meth on the show, and it's like all over, plastered all over the walls and everything.
It's like something to be proud of, right?
Yeah, which it is.
I'm like, good for you.
It is, and it's a lot of people don't talk about New Mexico a lot. So
yeah, it was interesting. I mean, there is a vortex there, and you feel it if you are sensitive to vibrations.
Yeah.
There's some different level shit out there. I mean, it's crazy. I've been in like up in the mountains, like up in Jemez and the hot springs, and you just feel it. You just totally feel it. Like there's something here.
Yeah.
And then you leave out of there kind of like shook almost. It was a trip, but we decided to come back, and it was a choice to move back to Orange County because we didn't want to be triggered again. I guess LA and the fastness and the population.
Yeah.
But we got really lucky and fortunate that we found a cool spot, and it was right before COVID, so we got a really good deal on it, and I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. Nice. You're locked in.
I'm locked in. Even though the owner lives next door, I'm cool because I don't party anymore. So it's just quiet. She doesn't raise my rent. I'm good. So yeah, when we came back, it was kind of like a conversation. Well, what are we going to do? We're just going to go back getting regular jobs.
Yeah.
And then my wife was like, you know what? You should go back and do your art. Go back, do your art. Because I didn't do any art for those 2 years. I was in New Mexico. And before I went to New Mexico, I was living in Whittier. I had lived in Whittier for like 20 years. And I was selling my artwork at Casita del Pueblo. Mm-hmm. It's a little like a Latino, like a gift shop gallery.
Yeah.
And when I got back, I went and I showed the owner, Yolanda, my work that I had been working on. And it wasn't Chicano centric. It was more the big lips that I just gave you.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, let's see how this goes. So I made a few more. I gave them to her, put them in the shop. And Diana Diaz, who was also a vendor in her shop, found my work. And she started stalking me on Instagram, and I'm like, who is this bitch? You know, I was like, who the fuck is this?
You're like, I'm taken.
Yeah, I was like, you're not my type. So I'm just kidding, Diana. No, I'm kidding. You're not my type, but no. So she started stalking me, and then I started calling around, like, who is this person? Why, you know, what is she up to? What's her angle? Because like we talked about earlier, everybody's full of shit until they're proven otherwise. Right.
Exactly. Very true.
So at that time, she was starting the Goddess Mercado boutique. The Goddess Mercado. And she asked me to come and vend with her. And I was like, I had never vended. I didn't know what that was all about because I didn't do pop-ups. You know, I've never done one.
Yeah.
I would just drop off work and leave. So I started doing it. I did the first one with them and it was fun, but I'm like, I was still scoping them out and I seen them like, you know, drinking the White Claw on the down low and shit. I was just like, okay, they're all right. You know,
that's how you gauge trust, honestly.
Yeah. It's like, okay. They're all like, it's already like 2:00 in the afternoon. They're all bed. I was just like, I love this. I don't drink, but I'm like, hey, do you?
So have you always like never drank or?
No, I used to party, girl. Okay. I partied.
You just toned it down.
I'll have a drink once in a while, but as far as like, I used to drink a lot. Like when, like I said, I had a fake ID and then the drugs came through and girl, that's a whole other story.
That's another podcast.
That's another podcast. Like I've done some shit. I was like dealing at 12.
What?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There is hoods in Orange County.
Yeah. No, I believe you. Yeah. I know that for sure.
Dealing in schools. Yeah. Weighing shit out, packaging like at 12, 13 years old.
Was that, were people like an influence on you? Like, did you have like older siblings or cousins?
I had an older cousin. Like, she was my dad's cousin. So she's my second cousin. We're a partner in crime.
Oh, like, that was it.
That's how I got my fake ID. It was her.
That's all older cousins.
Yeah. We got into some stuff. We were running it. I mean, as far as party crews, like kickbacks, we would have to hire like security, like 300 people just mobbing a house.
Damn.
Dude, like we ran it. We ran it. And that's why I kind of stay away from Orange County. You know, like I live there, but I don't socialize there because I'm always like, fuck, I'm going to run into somebody.
It's like triggering.
Yeah. There's like certain streets I do not cross. You know, I don't go past this street.
When you were younger though, like throughout all that, did you know you were creative or did you have any creative, like,
I was always
desires?
I always admired the fashion because at that time when I was coming up, I was like 12, 13 when like Madonna hit, Boy George, you know, like the androgynous Annie Lennox, you know, those types of things. And I was just like, oh my God, I was so fascinated by them because they were gender bending and I hadn't seen that before. Yeah. And once Pete Burns came out, you know, Dead or Alive, I was like, oh my God, he's beautiful, you know? So, I never really did anything creative. I mean, the only thing I really did was I had like a canvas on my wall and I spray painted my name and every time like a friend would come over, they would tag my wall.
Yeah.
You know, stupid shit like that. But as far as like doing art and creative stuff, that didn't happen until my 30s. After my grandma passed away, I had to go to grieving counseling and then I had realized I was just a bitch. I was just a bitch to everything and everybody. I'm sorry to anybody I was a bitch to out there that I worked with. A few people I would like to apologize to. Nancy Mead. I know I made your day fucking shit almost every day. Shout out to Nancy Mead. I know you're still working in aerospace.
I didn't realize how small you were.
I'm short.
You're very short. I'm going to lower this mic a little.
I'm short. I'm fucking 5 foot nothing. Yeah.
That work?
If you want to see my face.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, I would just do it for shits and giggles. Like I would tell my coworker, I'm like, here she comes. Watch this shit. I'm gonna have the bitch's lip twitching. I was just me.
Why?
I didn't hurt people.
Yeah.
And I realize that now. And, going to therapy and understanding and why I did the things that I did. And I'm sorry, everybody. I'm repenting for everything that I've done. And I just had this conversation with a mentor recently. It was like, I know that I've done a lot of fucked up shit to people, but I've also done a lot of good to where I feel at peace with myself that I'm good on karma. Karma and we're good.
Yeah.
So that's why
So you were a bully.
I was a fucking asshole.
Oh my God, that's funny.
I'm a recovered bully. You have
to go to AA for it.
Yeah. BA is called Bullies Anonymous.
Damn, that is true though.
But I admit it. I admit it now. And I'm like, you know what? I know I did a lot of fucked up shit. Some of it was necessary. But I am where I am now. I am who I am now. I'm not the same person. I've cut a lot of people off. Because I just didn't, I haven't talked
with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't talked to my mom in like 20 years. And that's another topic, when we just cut toxic family members off.
Right. Nobody talks about cutting off family because everyone has this oh,
that's your mom. That's your dad. Fuck you. You don't know my life.
What a family is supposed to be. A family is not, they're supposed to be nice to you, you just don't choose them. You are biologically related, but you don't have to be friends with them.
Exactly. So there's like a lot of my family, I'm an orphan. I have a shit ton of family members, but I am I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
How long did you go to therapy for?
I started the therapy to manage my my anxiety after my grandma passed.
And you said that was around 30?
That was around 33 when she passed. It was just fucking crazy. I went to Hawaii. I had never flown before. And when I came back, I had this crazy rash on my face and they thought it was lupus. Turns out to be fibromyalgia. So that flight to and from Hawaii just shot my nervous system. So then
what is fibro? I've heard of that one before.
It's in your nervous system. Okay. It's like your nerves are just firing like crazy, right? And it's it translates into pain.
Oh.
So that's all they thought I had. So I'm like, okay, so they give me ibuprofen or whatever because I'm like, I don't need to take any opioids or anything like that because I got a family history.
Yeah.
I got chemically clean, not California sober, at 19, 20.
Yeah.
So all these years I thought it was just fibromyalgia. And then, I'm working, doing my thing, going, every day, raising my son, living with my wife, doing the whole family thing. And not till I want to say about 3 years ago, I found out I was celiac.
What's that?
Or I see all this shit right here. This is all because I ate nuts or seeds. Yeah.
What is it? So what is
okay?
That
So celiac is your small intestine can't absorb any nutrients because any wheat or gluten atrophies your villi in your small intestine.
What?
So I was just jacked up, and I had no idea why I was having migraines and all this shit. And at the same time, I'm like, okay, so it's time for my physical. I go for my physical and I found out I had a 7-pound cyst on my ovary.
What?
Yeah. So this is 2 years ago.
In addition to the
celiac and all this shit at 50, I'm going to be 53 in the past 3 years. I'm like, damn, I just got a tune up.
You got a diagnostic.
I did. And it was huge. It was a 7-pound cyst on my ovary.
Oh my God.
So they cut me up that way. Yeah. So I've been going through it. And while I was recovering from that surgery, I was at home. My wife and my son totally took amazing care of me. Thank you, babies. But But it was the first time I had been at rest. I was just home healing. And for the first time, I had no body pain. So I was like, oh, I feel good. I'm going to go back to therapy because this whole new art thing that I'm doing, I need to put myself in check again.
Yeah. So was the cyst causing your body pain?
No. Trip out of this shit. So I start seeing this therapist and we're talking. And she goes, I'm going to send you to go do some testing. So I'm like, okay, cool. I go, because I think I have ADHD. And she was like, I think you do too, because you've interrupted so many times or you went off topic. And I was just like, okay. So then, okay, I get some results back and they're like, oh, it's just, you have trauma. And I was like, well, no shit. I knew that. And then they're like, no, it's complex trauma. And I'm like, what the fuck is complex trauma? And they're like, well, complex trauma is something that happens to people over their lifetime. That's CPTSD. And then PTSD is what happens when they go to war, because it's just like one incident that happened.
Right.
But mine was like a lifelong series of bullshit. And that's what created that. So I was pissed. I was angry. I got depressed. I got sad. And I was like, all of my shit is because of other fucking people. So I was furious for like 2 weeks. I was just mad because I didn't know how to handle it. Because I was like, you know what? All this shit all of this is because of other people. So I had a talk with, who was doing my testing, and she's like, I'm going to do some other tests on you. So I'm like, okay, fine. So we did it, and it came back. And she thought I was going to take it sad, like be upset about it. But it turned out that I'm on the spectrum. They call it neurodivergency. So it's like you have ADHD with a touch of, with the dash of autism. Yeah. And I'm like, oh shit. She goes, but the good thing is your memory recall is like in the 96th percentile.
Okay. Because people with attention disorders have bad memory, right?
No, this is where mine's fucked up because I have a good memory.
Yeah.
I can remember exact detail from shit that happened when I was like 2.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, now a lot of things make sense.
Did they do those tests on you? Like, what were the tests like?
Memorizing patterns.
Okay.
Which I've always been like amazing at, like, because that's all I've done for my career was data mining.
Yeah.
And that's how I made my money after I went back to school, got my GED, went to trade school. And then, because I had to support my kid.
Yeah.
So I excelled in those
tests.
fields.
Oh.
In those fields.
Yeah.
Now I know why, because of what these tests have shown.
Yeah.
So a lot of them were like reaction time, your cognitive. It was just, I was like putting pins in a thing to a certain pattern, but I was really good at these things. And when I did these tests, and they're like, it's like you're gifted, but you process things differently. And it was a trip.
What's the room like? Like if you could paint the room of like your testing room.
It was like an office, like couch, but it was like more relaxing. They had like.
They have like a desk for you to do these tests?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then like
Did you feel like a kid?
I was like, I think I've done these tests before, like in elementary, but nobody ever told me why.
Yeah.
You go to that special room when you're a kid.
You're on this special bus and for some reason.
No, the special bus that I got was for Sunday school.
Oh,
Can you believe that shit? They used to teach that at regular elementary school. A bus would pull up and kids that had a signed permission slip, you can go and learn about Jesus.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Thank you, Orange County.
It is a conservative county.
But they would only do that in the Latino areas. Mm. But back then, it was Latino and Blacks. It was a huge concentration in this one neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it was all like Chicano and Black people, and that's where I met my baby daddy. Just kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to that, it's been a trip. So now yesterday I did a training for neurofeedback.
What's that?
They put this headband on you and it's like you train your mind. It's like a training to quiet your mind.
Oh.
So this thing is on your head and it's reading your brain waves and you can see the monitor going, but it gives you like these little exercises to do, but you're doing them with your mind.
Oh, that's crazy.
I know. And I can't wait to go back and do it again. Cause I was like, ooh, this is neat.
Yeah. I'm like so fascinated by this because my therapist actually a couple of years ago, he told me like, have you ever considered getting diagnosed for ADHD?
Do it.
And I was like, no, I'm fine.
Bitch, you in denial.
And then afterwards, I kept thinking about that for like years, a couple of years. I just like kept thinking about it. I was like, he told me like I should get diagnosed and this and that. It looks different in women than it does in men. And like part of me like was like, maybe, but I don't want to know. And then now it was last December, November, I had told my doctor like, hey, my therapist had told me like a while ago, like maybe I should get diagnosed. Can you put in a referral for that? She put in the referral and I never went. And I feel like I'm still like trying to hide it, but I like want to also accept it at the same time. Because like, what if I don't have it? Then it's like this whole time, then how do I explain that I'm fucking weird? Like, but just, that's like my fear. And then if I have it, then I'm like, okay, all of it would make sense. Honestly, like my whole life would make sense. I struggled so much in school.
Oh yeah.
Like I struggled reading. Like I could not read. I still don't like to read.
I hate reading.
I literally was just telling my friend the other day, I bought like a chocolate covered strawberry dip thingy. And I just glanced at the directions and I was like, nah, I'm not going to do it. Like too much work. And then I was on my period and I was really craving like sweets and we don't have that many sweets at my house or at the moment. And I was like, fine, like I caved, like, so I just got the box and I started like eating the dried little chocolate chips and then I'm looking at the box. I'm like, oh, I just have to put it in the microwave for 30 seconds.
Yeah, definitely.
And I avoided just like making it a long time ago just because I didn't want to read it.
Yeah.
Like that's how bad
that's
I am.
Avoidance.
Yeah.
That's it's called, shit, what's that called? That's called something else where you have a task to do, but you're going to do everything to avoid to do
Procrastinating.
No, it's a little deeper than just procrastinating.
I procrastinate a lot. But like my attachment style is like avoidant attachment. Mm-hmm. And I avoid doing a lot of things. I avoid people too.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I used to always say, I fucking hate people. And Diana did. She'd be like, oh, she hates people. And now I realize I don't really hate people. It's just like, I don't want to tolerate them. They're exhausting.
I don't hate people. I would just say that like, because I have social anxiety, it's really energy draining for me.
Yeah.
And so, which is why we were talking about like how one-on-one conversations are a lot easier and more meaningful. I'm terrible at small talk too.
Yeah.
Like I like deep conversations about things. And I don't like asking, how's your day? Or like, oh, the weather. Like it's bullshit to me,
I think I posted something about that yesterday.
Yeah.
And fucking Art Carrillo, he was like, how's your day? I was like, fuck you, eat shit. He replied back to it.
You're crazy.
I was like, fuck you. That was my reply to him.
Like, okay, fuck you too.
I was like, fuck you, eat shit. That was it. He was just laughing. And then but I called him after and I was just like, just fucking with you.
Yeah. There's people that are going to get you and there's people that are not going to get you. And I feel like I've struggled with that like my whole life with people understanding me. Mm-hmm. I feel like I've always been misunderstood because like I'm quiet, but once I know somebody, I can't stop talking.
Yeah.
And I'm fucking crazy.
Yeah.
So I just feel like when I was doing my research for you, I was like, oh my God, I relate to a lot of the stuff that you're saying.
Yeah.
And it's kind of wild. So I should probably get diagnosed soon.
Get diagnosed. I mean, it's not going to hurt, but you know what? It'll help you. I mean, I wish I would have done it a lot sooner. Or
what age did you get diagnosed?
Fucking 6 months ago.
Oh my God.
I'm going to be 53.
Oh shit.
So now I'm like, fuck, now it makes sense. You know what triggered it was I had said something to my sister, who is 17 years younger than me. I had said something to my niece and my sister heard and she got pissed off and wrote me this big old message, right? And she goes, you shouldn't, you say things without thinking. And I'm thinking, I really do? I do? It wasn't meant to be facetious or anything or mean.
Yeah.
But you know what? If you're going to be fucking butthurt about something that I said, whatever. I'm sorry. Not sorry. I hurt your feelings. You know, I mean, I'm not responsible for how I make you feel, you know, because it's the truth of what I told my niece. I just kind of said, hey, if you ever, she's in high school. And I said, when you decide to run away, come to my house because you have a safe place to stay. Don't be out there on the streets. It's pretty much what I said because my sister did the same shit when she was little, when she would turn 18 and I took her in. So I told my niece the same thing because I know what it's like to run away. I used to run away all the time.
Yeah.
And I was just out on the streets running wild. So, and nobody cared. Nobody, you know, it's like fine. One time my friend snitched on me and they rolled up. We were all like we were all sitting on the curb smoking and shit and smoking cloves. And my mom rolls up and she has, I think, one or two of my friends in the back seat. And I'm like, you fucking bitches ratted on me.
Probably for your own good.
Yeah, whatever. I still didn't listen. But little did I know it was, you know, and I used to always be told, oh, well, you know, you're this, you're that, you're this. But now it makes all sense. Now it all makes sense why I was like not listening.
So far for these past 6 months, have you learned a lot about yourself?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's been crazy because I like my wife, she goes, you don't mask anymore. And I was like,
when did you learn about masking?
Fucking TikTok.
I just learned about masking like a couple of weeks ago.
Fucking TikTok. TikTok's
maybe like a month ago.
Yeah. And I didn't realize what I was doing, that it's like I would spend my whole day at work being in an office environment, pretending to be somebody that I am totally not. Baby girl, I know you're tired. It's okay to yawn.
No, I also have a breathing problem.
What, air?
Yeah. No, I swear, like I have like an asthma problem. So like it takes me a long time to breathe. So I have to try to get like short breaths.
You're going to walk around with one of those aerosol cans, huh? That's oxygen.
Yeah. That's why I also don't smoke anymore.
Aw.
Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah. So, say ADHD, where was I?
So what have you learned in these past 6 months about, you said masking?
Okay. So I asked Danny, my wife, I was like, baby, have you noticed anything different? She goes, you're so much happier. You are your true self now. She goes, I look at something and right away I know how to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and she goes, it's been amazing to watch you because you can fix something right away if you put your mind to it.
Yeah.
I was like, that's it. You know, there's still a kitchen drawer I have to get to.
Yeah.
I broke it the other day. She's like, are you going to fix that? And I'm like, I don't know. Someday when I decide to.
Let's talk about a little bit about your art because we're like halfway here.
Already?
Yeah. Okay, so I know. I'm like, stop. So can you describe your art?
A lot of the art that I started doing in the beginning, it was mostly like based off of Chicano culture. Mm-hmm. Sacred Hearts. Because I was raised by both of my grandparents. I was taken from my parents when I was 2. And raised by both of my grandparents, both sides. So my dad's side, my grandmother had a bunch of saints in the house, in her room. And it was like, and it used to always trip me out because I would always look at them and I'm like, but you never go to church.
Hypocrite.
Exactly. Exactly. That part. But I always love the art behind it. And then my other grandmother was a nurse. So when she was studying to be a nurse, she had all these medical books. So we didn't have internet back then. So I was always reading the medical books, the dictionary, the encyclopedias. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would just sit there and I wouldn't read. I would just look at the pictures because that whole memory thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of my artwork started with corazones and anatomical hearts. And then my other grandmother that had all the corazones, she liked this fancy pottery. It was Capodimonte or something like that. And they were porcelain flowers. And I think she would get these back then when you would buy something from a furniture store or something, they're like blue chip stamps.
Uh-huh.
You put them in a book and then you could redeem them.
Weird.
It was really, it was weird shit back then, right? Right? Weird. But she would get these things and they were so intricate. So then now you see a lot of roses in my work because I would sit there and study the anatomy of the flower. So that's where that comes from. And then, of course, the lips are me.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I guess it's part of the tism and it's the repetitive imagery.
Yeah.
And it's
a lot of textures. And then like we were talking about, I like things that look wet, but I don't want to touch them. Yeah.
So then that's how I started getting into resin, and I pretty much work with anything I can get my hands on. Like I'll make anything.
Yeah.
I'll be like,
you're like a hands-on person.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a builder is what Margaret calls me. Margaret Garcia. She's like, you're a builder. She goes, you're not a painter. I was like, I want to be a painter. No, I'm not a painter. I can't even draw.
But it's a form of art.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a craft in a way.
It's sculpting.
Yeah.
So a lot of artists a lot of other artists say that I'm a sculptor. And I'm like, okay, if you say so.
And you do like paper mache, which is also a form of like sculpting.
Paper mache. I work in air clays, foam.
I'll get the lips.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Looking at them.
No, I was actually looking at your bag.
My bag is Adelita's Apparel.
Oh, okay.
Shout out. I'll go ahead and get this because this is pretty sick.
Oh yeah, those lips.
Shit.
Here, just put it right there. Yeah, the lips. I try to match a color that was really big. It was a L'Oreal color in the 90s, and we used to call it puta red.
Puta red.
Puta red, because we were going to go out and be putas. We were going to go out clubbing. It was this big group of girls that we would just all hang out and go party and bring all the girls home with us. It was good times.
When did you come out of, like, when did you accept that you're gay? What is the term? I don't, excuse me if I'm not, like,
no,
correct.
It was kind of funny. I had my son.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
Yeah, it was like, how did that happen?
When did this happen?
Okay, so I had my son. I got pregnant when I was 16. Just some random dude from a party crew that I used to see hanging around the neighborhood or whatever. Hooked up with him. 2 weeks after I was pregnant, I met this other guy. Ended up with him. And then I had to break up with him because I didn't tell anybody I was pregnant. And I started showing at 6 months.
Oh.
And I was like, dude, I can't be with you anymore. I'm sorry. I'm pregnant. And he goes, we didn't do anything. I was like, it's not yours. That's what I'm telling you. It was horrible.
Yeah.
And he was like, he goes, what do you mean? I was like, I was pregnant when I met you and stuff. And so we broke up. And I had my son. And then he shows up at the hospital. This dude. And he has like balloons and flowers, playpen, everything. And I was just like, what? So I was like, oh, thank you. That was really sweet of you. But we didn't get back together or anything until I think my son was 6 months old. Back then, we used to have this thing called a party line. Or you call a phone number and it's all these teenagers just like yelling, hey, da-da-da-da.
I just had one of my friends explain to me what the party line was.
Yeah, dude. We had fun, dude.
So I just kind of learned the party line.
I
had heard it from my parents.
Yeah.
And like my aunts and uncles and stuff. But I like didn't know what it was, like, or
how did you get one?
Yeah, in my head.
It was a wall, a landline that you would pick up this thing and press buttons, and then you could just hear everybody yelling stuff, and then that's how we would find out about house parties and all that stuff over there.
So, so after you got back with him,
okay, so I get back with him, and I remember it was like right before my 18th birthday, he takes off. He goes to Mexico. And then while he was gone, my cousin, partner in crime, she brings over this one chick, and she's like 25, 26, goth, punk, black lipstick, white skin. And I'm just like, oh my God, I love this. Oh my God, she's like totally CZ, and I was just like, oh my God. So that ended up being, okay, so while he was in Mexico, I was pissed off because he missed my 18th birthday, and the brat that I am, I ended up hooking up with that chick.
Like out of spite?
Out of spite.
Wow.
Yeah. You mess with me, that's it. I'm done. You're like,
okay.
I was very reactive like that.
So at that time, did you consider yourself gay yet, or like what?
Oh, I ended up moving in with her like a week later.
Oh God.
But when he finally came back, I was home getting clothes, and he's like, I've been trying to call you, where you been? And I'm like, oh, I was at my cousin's. And he's like, let me pick you up. And I'm like, okay. So he picks me up. We go down to Newport, watch the sunset. And he takes me home. He gets out of the car and he pulls out a ring. What? He gets on his knees. And I'm like, no. I can't do this. So I go in the house and I'm all crying and shit. Everybody's like, what's wrong? I was like, he asked me to marry him. And I'm over here like, they're like, oh yeah, they're all excited, you know, because here I am with a mixed baby, and this is another dude willing to take me.
Yeah.
But I was like, hell no. I broke up with him, and I was just like, no, I'm not going to do it. And I ended up moving in with that chick.
Did you not move forward with it because you were so mad at him, or because you were just like...
No, because...
You just moved on?
I had just barely turned 18. My whole life flashed before my eyes that I know him, and I knew that I was like, nah, I'm not going to be stuck at home with a bunch of kids while you're out being a hoe. Yeah. No, that's not going to happen. And that just like flashed really fast, and I was just like, no, I can't do it.
Yeah.
So I ended up with her. I stayed with her for about a year. Drugs were really deep at that time, and I ended up moving with my cousin, and then started partying even more. And one day I just had this realization that I'm doing exactly what was done to my son. I mean, done to me. So I had this moment of clarity, and I was just like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done with all this.
Yeah.
I have a kid to raise. And that's what I did. I did what I had to do to buy diapers, Yeah. I owe you $10 somewhere out there. Let me know if I still owe you money for those diapers. But yeah, from there, I just was like, you know what? I'm queer. And everybody was like, oh, my family, like my dad's side, they're like, oh, thank God. Oh, you're gay. I kind of knew something was up. I was like, why did you fucking say so? And then I was just like, and then one of my cousins goes, does this mean you'll stop being such a bitch? And I was like, no.
You're like, that's just me.
Yeah. But little did I know that it was the whole autism and being overstimulated by these really loud people that I would just go hide in my room.
Yeah. You have a lot of like intersections of like being queer, being Latina, being on the spectrum.
And I always thought, I'm not going to do this because I don't want to be a statistic. Girl, I check all the boxes.
That was my mentality too. When I graduated high school, I was like, I don't want to be another statistic of what everyone thinks a Latina is, which is like getting pregnant at a young age, And I don't know, like, I feel like people misconstrue what a Latina is, and they think like we're dumb or like we're not
complacent.
Yeah, we're just like, or we're submissive. Yeah, and like we're just,
get you a Latina.
Yeah,
what the fuck you mean? You need to go to the store and get one. What
it's like no. At least the Latinas I know in LA, like very independent women.
Oh, absolutely.
And kind of like very just self-sufficient, having to do everything for themselves.
Yep.
So yeah, it's weird what other people think Latinos are.
Yeah. And I think that whole self-sufficiency thingy, and people see that, that's why they think that, that they're strong. No, it's necessity, because nobody's going to give it to us.
Exactly.
So you got to go get it.
And nobody saw that in me either, you know?
Yeah.
So nobody like cared to even try to push me or mentor me or suggest like routes that I could take. So a lot of my 20s and like my teenage years, I was just like, I don't know what I want to do.
Same.
Like, I don't know what to do.
I just know I had to have a job to pay bills.
Me too. And even the things that I did know I wanted to do or I liked doing, I would get told like, that's not going to make money, or that's not going to like, benefit you. You're going to like, in my head also, I didn't like being like dependent on my parents' money. So I always knew I needed to have a job. So I didn't have time to do like internships for free, and things like that. So I kind of sacrificed like a lot of the things that I wanted to do because I needed to be self-sufficient, Yeah.
My thing was, I'm not going to get a good job at Carl's Jr. or that polyester brown outfit.
Yeah.
I'm going to go sell drugs.
And not pay taxes. And my mom doesn't know, but I didn't live with her until I was like 12. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't even remember. It's all just a blur.
Yeah.
But I can remember like certain things, but where I lived, and it took me a long time to piece a lot of my childhood together. Even though I do have that memory recall, it was just such a blur.
Yeah.
It was like, but I wasn't going to do that. Why would I do that?
Yeah. For me, like, I started going to therapy in my late 20s, and I started telling my therapist things, and they're just like, oh, that must have been hard. Or like, oh, like, that's not normal. And then things started clicking, and I was like, oh, that's trauma. Like, oh, that isn't normal. Most people don't have this type of like upbringing or stuff like that,
right?
Or like normal. It's also annoying, the word normal, because a lot of households are dysfunctional. Anyway.
What is normal?
So I think like everyone has trauma in some form. Most people. So then it started clicking, and then in my like 29, 30, I was just like having this like moment where I was just realizing like, okay, I need to now move on from this realization of like me having trauma from like my upbringing. And now that I know I'm here, I need to keep moving forward, or else I'm going to stay stuck in like depression or
I know I'm going to go through it, because when I first started therapy, it was for the anxiety and the just like everyday functioning.
Yeah.
So now that I'm starting this new process, they're like, we're going to go deep.
Yeah.
Because I've never dealt with my childhood trauma, and that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, fuck. And, I told my wife, I told Danny, I was like, baby, she goes, I know, because she's already gone through that.
Yeah.
So she's like, do you need something? Do you need anything? Because I came out of my session, and it was like a Zoom. I come out of my art studio, which is the garage, and she just looks at me. She goes, here's my debit card. Go to Michael's. Treat yourself to something. I was like, okay.
Yeah, because it's a hard path to get into, and then it's a hard path after you realize and then get out of it, Yeah,
it took me like an afternoon. I went and I ran a couple errands, and, I still came home kind of in a funk, but I like the next day, it's like I slept it off, and I was like, okay, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
But I realized that some of my best art has come out of when I'm processing shit. So
for most people too.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious to see what comes out, because sometimes I just get stuck making the same thing because that's what people want. And those are the orders that I'm getting, or the commissions. But when I'm going through it, it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, that came out good as shit.
Okay. we're actually getting close to the end, which is like kind of sad because I feel like there's good conversation, but it's okay.
She's all part 2.
What is the best advice for someone who might have had a similar experience, or just any advice you have in general?
Take the chances. Show up. You know, like that's how we met. It was like I had just barely heard about that event, like maybe 2 or 3 days before.
Yeah.
Listen to the mentors. Listen to what those mentors are telling you. It doesn't mean you have to do what they're telling you, but just contemplate, you know, think about what the advice they're giving, because those mentors that we have, that you have and I have right now, they've been through it. They have the knowledge. But their pedo is not your pedo. You know what I mean? Because they already have their people that they've already pissed off, because I've noticed that already. I'm like, okay, well, that's your pedo. That person, I take people for face value. I'll meet you. And if you've done somebody else bad, don't try to shit with me.
Yeah.
Don't, you know, because But as soon as I see you moving a weird way, I'm done.
I respect that you have like your boundaries.
Oh, absolutely.
And it seems like you've always had your boundaries.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But then again, I have friends like from kindergarten that I still talk to.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, they're still around, but it's like I can not talk to you for years and pick up the phone like, hey, what are you doing, bitch?
Me too. That literally just happened to me yesterday. Yeah. One of my friends, I hadn't talked to her in years, and we used to be coworkers, and she calls me and she's like, I'm just here to send the message that you need to keep doing your podcast. And she's like calling me, like calling me bitch and like, puta.
Yeah, puta, yeah, do you.
And then I'm like, I haven't fucking talked to her in years, but it just like, we start where we left off, you know? Like
I have a ton of friends
like type of friendships that I appreciate, and I'm glad I have those friendships. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm like, don't invite me to anything because I probably won't show up. That type of, or I get there, I say hi, and I just
you leave.
I do.
I think it's called the Irish goodbye.
Irish goodbye. No, it's
Irish exit.
And I call it the Tina bye. I'm like, oh, I forgot something in the car.
Bye. Okay, so where can we find you? And what are some projects you're working on or events you're going to? You
can find me on Instagram _ Tina Latina _ because somebody else took it. You don't know how many tries I did.
I know.
Try to get that. You probably did the same shit, right?
Yeah. It's hard.
Fucking Instagram.
And same with emails. Like
emails
Gmails.
Too. Yeah.
I'm like, wow. I had to have the freaking basic ass last name.
Yeah. You can also find me at, I think I have a couple of pieces at the Goddess Mercado Boutique in El Sereno. I have some pieces at the Margaret Garcia Studio. I have some pieces. Actually, no, not yet. But when Frank Romero comes back, I'll have a couple of pieces at his studio.
Nice. I just went to his studio.
Yeah.
Like in December.
He's a trip.
He's funny. I love him.
It was like Cocktail Friday, and then we went thrifting. I went thrifting with him and Margaret Garcia. Uh-huh. It was surreal. Because I'm like, I'm here with these two.
Like legends?
But yeah, it's like, okay, let's go across the street. We're going thrifting before the Mormons close. That's what they call it, the Mormons, because I guess it's a Goodwill. Yeah. So I was just like, fuck it, let's go. And I'm like...
Frank's such a cool person because I remember ending our episode. I did an interview with him, and his friend just pulls up with like fucking tequila, just bottles of liquor.
Yeah.
And Frank's like, I didn't know you were coming. And he's like, yeah, this is what we're going to do the rest of the day. And Frank's like, okay.
Was it Freddie?
Maybe it was Freddie.
It was Freddie. Yeah.
That sounds right. And I was just like, most people would be like, dude, you didn't call me. Like, I didn't even know I have plans today. But Frank's just like go with the flow type of guy. Yeah. And I really appreciate that about him.
Cocktail Fridays. We got to meet up. Actually, I'm meeting up with Brenda La Tremenda, and we're going to go we're going to do Cocktail Fridays as soon as he comes back. So.
Is he in Paris right now or France?
Hawaii.
Hawaii.
He's in Hawaii because I texted him the other day. Actually, he's
so hard to reach, I swear. I had a whole story on how I fucking got a hold of him.
Margaret was like, we have a meeting.
But now I could call him.
Yeah. She's like, we have a meeting. I'm going to go introduce you to Frank. And I'm like, okay. And we went to the studio, we like hung out, and then he took me on a tour and he opened his workshop to me. And he goes, you're welcome to come use any of the tooling or whatever. And he's like, you're welcome to hang your stuff here. And I'm like, cool.
Yeah. Cool person.
Yeah. So I guess we're going to do a cocktail hour when he gets back. And actually, because I asked him to be in a show with us at the Muckenthaler coming up in September. The Delatory brothers, who are huge in glasswork. Okay. They're actually at the Cheech. They have that big entry, that lenticular piece.
Have you been?
I didn't tour the whole thing. I took Margaret Garcia and her husband, Rhett Beavers, over to the Cheech to drop off her catalogs.
Okay.
And then we had dinner with one of the people that work there.
Okay.
So I only got to walk around the first floor.
I feel like we should plan something where it's like, we should go, we'll take Frank.
Yeah.
I know he hasn't been either.
Yeah.
And Margaret, then we can all just like, I want to go. That's why.
I want to go
too. I'm
just
inviting myself, so I'm just trying to create a plan.
Hell yeah, let's go. Let's roll. I'm usually the driver because like when I'm not working.
Just get a bus.
Yeah. No shit. Can you imagine? That would be a fucking mess.
Party bus.
Oh my God. I'm not driving that.
All the way to fucking Riverside. I hate that it's so far. But I really do want to see all the art there. I know a few people there that he chose to have their art displayed. So it's like, it's very, I don't know. It's such a good feeling to see Latinos be represented, you know?
Yeah. It's crazy. It's funny because I had went to, actually what happened? Shit, we're almost done. I had met Margaret, and then we were at Plaza de la Raza and Artes and Cultura, whatever. Here we go, pocha. And I go in, and she's sitting next to Cheech, and she's eating a bowl of pozole, and I'm like, that's not meat. I thought you were a carnivore. What are you doing? And she goes, she introduces me to Cheech. And all I could focus on is her bowl of pozole. Because she told me she will not eat anything else but meat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a whole other story how I met Margaret.
Well, we'll have another episode. I'll invite you again and we could do this and talk more, and hopefully there's no technical issues. But thank you for doing this with me.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here. And we'll just end here.
I'm not hiding behind
him. I know, you've been hiding the whole time.
I'm right here.